Good morning, everyone. My name is Eris, and this week we were asked to pick an assessment of our choice and elaborate on it, and then also do a paper on it for next week. And the assessment that I chose was the PCL-5, and is the post-traumatic stress disorder checklist for the DSM-5. It's widely used assessment that has been administered to combat veterans for several years now. The PCL-5 corresponds with the DSM-5 for criteria for PTSD, and the PCL-5 has a range of functions which include gathering and auditing symptoms over time. Primarily, the assessment really checks what's been going on either for the last week, the last month, or even that day. It's a 20-item assessment that's done on a Likert scale, from a grading from 1 to 4, from most likely to the most horrible thing that could have happened. It's aiding in making a tentative diagnosis for PTSD. So what happens is after the veteran has taken this assessment, the clinician must score it. It has to be a certified trained clinician to score this assessment. And then from that assessment determines on the severity of PTSD and how the client needs to move forward with whatever degree of PTSD they have. This was first adopted back in 1993 when they started running, and by they I mean other clinicians, started running exams from Vietnam veterans that have had PTSD but were never officially diagnosed with it. So the PCL-5 was designed for basically the fallout of war and the things that veterans they couldn't really label, and it's allowed the VA to help establish what's going on with vets as they've come back from the battlefield. What I like about the exam is it allows us to understand what's going on with the vet, their frame of mind, where they currently are, and what we can do as clinicians to help them down the road. The PCL-5 has three parts to it, really. There is kind of a formal briefing that the veteran fills in from events, and then there's the part B, or the main part of it, which is just that 20-point or 20-item checklist that the veteran fills out. And that's primarily what most vets fill out, is that 20-item checklist. And from that 20-item checklist, that score is then tallied by the clinician and gives the clinician an idea of about their disposition. And it's from, the score can go from 0 to 80. So an 80 being the most extreme. And the more extreme the score, the more help obviously that veteran's going to need. So I found this interesting, as I'm a vet myself, and I've taken this exam myself years ago. And when the clinician looks at it, they're able to help the vet in the moment and really address what's going on at that point, and then also have an idea of what else that veteran's going to need. So the exam also covers, there's 3 different parts to it, as I stated earlier, but there's also 3 different types of exams now. So you have one that's strictly for military, you also have one that's for civilians, as well as there's a specific criteria one. And the specific one is more or less what is used with vets. They kind of tie the two together. Let's see here. So the test itself is administered either in office, or it can actually be done at home. It's not recommended to be done at home, but typically when a vet comes in, it's either done prior to the counseling session or in the counseling session. And it's kind of up to the client as to where they want to do it, unless the clinician has another evaluation from somebody else that would cause them to really want to have them take that evaluation inside the office with them, depending on the severity of their PTSD and how that self-report may affect them emotionally from Jump Street. So the PCL-5 for me is a great way to assess and help vets. It's caught my attention. I like to work with vets, and I also like to incorporate in vivo techniques, which is typically flooding with them. But the PCL-5 is the starting point to help address the different dispositions with the vet. I encourage your feedback from this. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. But this is the meat and potatoes of the PCL-5. Again, it's a 20-item questionnaire based on 3 different sections, and the determination is then given to the clinician, and the clinician gives those results and decides on how far the vet needs to go with counseling. So again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to any input you guys have. Thank you.